Arise, giving all praise to the great God of the universe, affectionately known to the Moorish Americans as Allah. Allah is the author, the creator, the governor of the worlds, the almighty, eternal, and incomprehensible. All praises are due to Allah. I extend the highest of honors to his holy and divine prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Allah's love thought made manifest. I extend high honors to his forerunner, most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvin, the founder of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, who did indeed warn and stir up the nations, who said, "Up, you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will." Islam? I extend high honors to the first Supreme Grand Sheikh of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Brother Ranesi-El. I give high honors to the current Supreme Grand Sheikh of the Supreme Grand Council, the Uniting of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Brother R.A.L. Giving honors to all past Grand Sheikhs, Grand Governors, and Grand Sheikhs and Grand Sheikhs and Grand Governesses of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam? Sending high honors to the Moorish flag, the red flag with the 5-pointed green star in the center. These 5 points represent love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Islam? Sending high honors to the American flag, also known as the Stars and Stripes. This flag exists as a constant reminder that the European nations owe you, the Moors, with compound interest. Islam? This is also the flag of our birth. Islam, Moors? Sending honors to noble Sheikh staff, noble acting vanguard staff who keep the peace, and giving honors to you, the Ills and Bays, for without you, there is no Moorish movement. Islam? How's everyone on a holy day? Praise Allah, as you were. So today, I'm going to touch on the topic of children. But before I go and demonstrate that, the Assistant Grand Sheikh was demonstrating how some uplifting acts were performed by Grand Temple 19 this week. We have to remember, we have to have clear conceptions of the works that we're called to do. We have to remember why, not only why we came to the Moorish Science Temple of America, but what is asked of you while you're here. All right? A lot of us lose sight of that, you know, because being raised as we were, many of us here in America, without the knowledge of ourselves, without the thought, the mind state of our forefathers and stuff like that, when you join the Moorish Science Temple of America, the information is kind of overwhelming, right? You're hearing stuff that you never thought you'd hear, right? And you start hearing yourself being able to expound on topics and subjects that you never were able to do before, right? But it takes a mastermind to be able to wield that, right? Because if you're not a mastermind, or you're not working to become a mastermind, you'll go through the community causing harm, right? We get up on this high camel. Anybody ever seen a camel before? Like on TV or anything? Yeah. A camel sits up real high, right? You can't just get up on a camel. The camel has to kneel down for you to get on it, right? Then when you get up on it, it's like you're looking down on everything, right? Well, that's almost how it is with our people. Like, we find ourselves on a high camel of sorts, you know, when we proclaim our nationality. We forget that we were born Negro, black, colored, etc., right? Many of us may have these things on their birth certificate. My father was born, peace be upon him, was born in 1923. He had, what did he have? He had Negro on his birth certificate. You know, and when I finally came to the knowledge of the Prophet and looked back at his birth certificate, it hurt me. Wow, Negro. You know what I'm saying? That he had that status injury on his birth certificate. That's what he was known as. Islam? So, you know, when I came to the Prophet personally, you know, I was a very zealous spirit. You know, I was one that I wanted to wake up everybody according to my understanding to what I thought it was to be Moorish American, right? In the process of doing that, I skipped past a lot of lessons, right? I skipped past mercy. What the Prophet say about the higher self? Mother of virtues, harmonies of life. Not just life, just harmonies of life. So you should be one going through the community breeding harmony, not strife. Islam? Harmony is life, breeding what? Justice, mercy, love, and right. See? Because you have 4 diplomatic principles before you get a chance to be right. Justice, mercy, 3. Justice, mercy, and love before you get a chance to be right. Right? We like to hurdle those to be right. Right? So, Grand Temple 19 this week, along with other temples, were actually slandered by other Moors. Right? And we know what slander is, so it's all right. It's measured up by time, so it's not real anyway. But the reality of it is, you know, because we gave out gifts to our people during this season, one's, you know, like leveled an accusation that we were observing Christmas. Oh, these Moors practicing Christmas, giving out gifts. Yes, it's actually fun. That's actually what I read. I actually laughed like that, right? Because it's, you have to pity. The Prophet says, pity their absurdity. That's the Prophet, right? So what happens is, it's not in the fact that it was the gifts were either given on or leading up to December 25th. the date didn't mean anything to us, right? What meant something to us is that, you know, we're out here every day. We're a community-based temple, so we're in the community. So we hear the stress and the strife of people, you know, according to their beliefs, wanting to, be present and accountable for something that financially they might not be able to do. I don't know how to buy these gifts for my children. I don't know how, and we're not in, a type of position to see our people struggling and not be there for them. Right. That's not even how Moorish American Muslim is built, right? So we reached out to several different sources, and Brother Raphael, well, let me pause that, I'll come back to that in a minute. But, we actually went out and, found certain people to look out for and, to give them gifts and so on and so forth. So I want to let you know that as a temple, remember last week when we took the collection, the charity collection, right? You actually put together $325. Wow. As a temple, you all did that. Yeah. It didn't go in any of our pockets. It was a family in need, and we donated the whole $325 to this family. Wow. Sister Typh was there when we gave the money, and not just money, it was bikes, toys. What else did we give Sister Typh? Blankets, all kinds of dolls, hats, socks. Everything was a full thing. And when we pulled up to the sister's house, with everything, she was just like overwhelmed. The sister started crying. She couldn't do nothing but hug Sister Typh and wouldn't let her go. I mean, I was like, can I get my wife back? But it's okay. I get it. So she was holding on to this because you don't know when the last time a person saw love. Yeah. You don't. Islam? See, this is the thing that we talk about, like, I've been teaching this for years. Anybody who knows me, I've been teaching this for years that, we are adepts at hate. What is an adept? An adept is one who is skillfully proficient at a thing, right? So we're adepts at it. We know, we can smell hate in the room, right? But love wouldn't know it if it came and knocked you upside your head. Islam? Love is just as foreign, and many times when you treat a person with true love, they reject it because it's foreign to them. Islam? But like we've often said, we're gonna love you till you learn to love yourself. Islam? All right, because it is indeed a process. But there were other people that came in and helped and contributed financially to that. We want to give honors to Brother James Cooper and this organization called Fed Up For You. It's an anti-bullying program that the brother has. Brother also teaches Asiatics about the stock market and so on and so forth. So pretty soon we're actually going to be having those classes available for those who are interested. Islam? All right. This Wednesday, was that Wednesday more? Toys for Top demonstration. Okay. So I threw out in the ethers, that we wanted to give out toys around this time. Didn't know how we were going to do it, and the situation, presented itself. Whether it was by way of Sister Camille and Brother Kareem Flournoy, and they do a lot of stuff relative to helping vets and so on and so forth. And they linked up with Toys for Tots, and Toys for Tots actually pulled up right here and was just giving out stuff, to people who needed it, And you'll be surprised how many people just saw it and just, thank y'all so much. I didn't know y'all are blessed. I didn't know how I was gonna. See, that's what it's about. Yes. I mean, respectfully, ain't nobody talking about mistletoes and Christmas trees. None of that. Respect to those that believe that. Because the prophet told us Christianity is all right for those who choose to believe that. That's okay if they want that, right? If they're seeking something else, then we got something for them. If not, then we can be peaceful with them as well. Islam? And then, that concludes that. But, this is the thing I don't want, let me ask a question. Who made devil? Elohim. Right. Y'all know who the Elohim was, right? I'm looking at the Elohim. Right. So we don't want to make any more devils. That's right. Right? Yeah. We don't want to arm you the wrong way. Because we arm you the wrong way, you'll go out there and you'll hurt your own people. And it's going to be your own people because contrary to popular belief, you don't have enough wherewithal to cause any harm to the European. You don't. Like I asked the question, like when right when the COVID thing jumped off, and everybody's buying all the arms, like rifles and ammunition and all this. And I was like, that's sad. And people were like, well, why is it sad that people are collecting arms? They need to defend themselves. I'm like, yeah, I hear you, but they're not going to be shooting Europeans. Right. Our people are not going to be running around the street shooting the Europeans. Not going to do. Who they going to kill? That hurt, didn't it? That hurt, don't it? But it's a reality, right? Yeah, there may be a 1 or 2 percentile of us, that have it in them, and I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying that if you're looking at that as an option, just know inside of yourself with the European psychology that we're under. Anybody seen the movie Demolition Man? Y'all remember that movie? Remember Demolition? Wesley Snipes, they made him to be this assassin. When it came time for him to point the gun at the guy that put him in the condition, he couldn't shoot him because he was the one that programmed him. Islam? All right? So there's a lot of things that we have to do in terms of rewiring our system, right? Because we're not in the mind of our forefathers. That's why we're here. And we labor to do good works, right? To try to because we have to pay penance because we've gone through and destroyed a lot of our community. Maybe to some degree, with some people more than others, but nevertheless, we all did our part with destroying our community, right? So we have to do our part to get it back to where it needs to be. Islam? Now, in that vein, relative to religious tolerance, because how many people, give me a concept, explain to me, what is religious tolerance? I want to take for granted everyone knows what that is. What does it mean to be religiously tolerant? What does tolerant mean? Someone?
I haven't already read it.
Yes, sir.
From my understanding is the respect for other people's religious beliefs.
Absolutely.
And practices.
Wonderful. Couldn't have put it better myself. All right? So that is in the state of mind of your forefathers. Let me ask you this. How many people are familiar with the history when the Moors took Spain in 711? They did. Okay. So there was, who was the general that led that march in? What was his name? General Tariq. That's the depiction of it right there on the wall. Right? General Tariq ibn Ziyad. Right? He, with 7,000 soldiers, went up in Spain, which was then known as the Iberian Peninsula, right? And conquered an army of 60,000 with 7,000 people. So we have plenty of examples of being outnumbered, but if we're doing it for Allah's purpose, them numbers don't matter. Islam? Because according to the Visigoths, which was the people he was fighting, according to their own accounts, they said it seemed we was fighting more than 7,000. It had to be at least 40,000 on the battlefield, it was only 7,000 more. But we had that little extra help. The Bible calls it double portion of the Spirit. Islam? But when the Moors took Spain, what were the religions of people that were there? They were Christians, Jews, people didn't believe anything. Right? Did the Moors subject them and force them to convert to Islam? What did the Moors do, in fact?
Just improve
and protect their right to believe such. Right? Because the Moors came in and said, it's okay, we love brother. Jesus is our brother too. We ain't tripping. If you want to have your church bell, do your thing. Right? The Hebrew Israelites were there. We protected their right to demonstrate Sabbath and kosher killing, because the kosher and the halal process is the same process. So Hebrew Israelites and Muslims eat the same way, similar ways. We're under the same dietary laws, similar. Islam, all right, might be slight cultural differences, but the main thing is the same. All right, and just protected that right. And in that vein, Prophet Noble Raleigh comes back. He says in the Moorish literature pamphlet, those who have it, an article entitled Moorish Leaders' Historical Message to America, on page 20. Left column, I'll start where it says, in the promotion of plans for the betterment of mankind, there has ever been some kind of opposition. And strange as it may seem, such opposition has come from sources where there were no ideas or the lack of courage to force attention to ideas. Whether in the church, state, or the social community, any attempt to do anything out of the usual way seldom fails to receive criticism. Moors, since the time of the Prophet, had fallen away from helping out in the community. We had gotten very used to just being inside the temple, right? There was a period of time when the Moors in America felt a civil war. A lot of people don't know this. The Prophet Noble Raleigh, referred to us as a nation within a nation, right? Many nations often find times where they end up fighting each other. The United States of America fell into a civil war, between 1861 and 1863. Islam, Moorish Science of America from 1929, and I could venture to say up to about the early 80s, it wasn't safe to be a Moor. lot of Moors that actually, were having meetings in their homes because they couldn't go to the temple. A custom had developed where Moors would take their fezzes off when they leave out the house, put it in a case, and then if they did have a temple, they would put their fez on when they got to the temple, right? Because if you got seen by a rival faction or more, something might happen to you. This is some of the history, right? And a lot of those ancient hatreds are passed from older teacher to younger student, and that's how it passes itself on. Hence, Elohim making devil. Islam? All right? So, but in us, in praise Allah, Allah pulled us from a day and time where we have to deal with it. Now it's just verbal, right? But verbal abuse, if you know it, if you've suffered it, or know anyone that has, verbal abuse can almost be worse than physical. Islam, because it's harder to shake. But let's move forward. It says, not because the course cannot be pursued legally or that it is unreasonable, but because it has been considered in terms as new. People don't like stuff that's new. People like the same old, even if it doesn't work. Okay? It says the Moorish Science Temple of America has received some opposition and criticism. In the main, the opposition has come from certain Christian ministers. They have expressed themselves as being opposed to our propagation of the Mohammedan religion, possibly because the promotion of the Mohammedan faith among our people in the United States is considered by them in terms as something new. Whatever the reasons may be for the opposition, the legal right to oppose citizens, individuals, and organizations alike for their religious belief does not exist in the United States. The door of religious freedom may be made by the American Constitution swings open to all, and people may enter through it and worship as they desire. Now check this out about religious tolerance and religious freedom. Without religious freedom, no search for truth would be possible. Without religious freedom, no discovery of truth would be useful. Without religious freedom, religious progress would be checked, and we would no longer march forward towards the nobler life which the future holds for the races of men. Without religious freedom, there would be no inspiration to lift our heads and gaze with fearlessness into the vast beyond, seeking a hope eternal. Now check the prophet out. He says, it is a sad weakness in us after all to oppose our fellow men for their religious beliefs. And if there are angels who record the sorrows of men as well as their sins, they certainly know how many and deep are the useless sorrows that spring forth from such opposition. Possibly love and time will counsel our ancient hatreds in this regard and prove that in mankind, tolerance is better than unwarranted opposition. So the Prophet Noble Raleigh was an advocate of tolerance. Islam Moors? Somebody mentioned the word patience earlier. Patience is very key in you being tolerant, right? Patience means that you have to almost empty your cup when you're dealing with somebody that that doesn't know as much as you on a particular subject. Okay? So let's say you get invited over a family member's house to have a Christmas tree. Now you know what the book of Jeremiah says. You know that, Islam, and for those that don't, we can deal with that later. All right? But the point is that now, what would be the way for me to demonstrate the harmonies of life? To attack the presence of the tree? Or to bring out a spirit of love, which may open up the person to ask, what are you studying? Because your example is giving them something to look forward to. Islam Moors? All right? Now, these lessons, the reason why we suffer from this stuff is because we weren't, respectfully, to everybody's upbringing, we weren't raised right. Because if we were raised right, we would know we would be adults that would have this in us. But because we have that void, it goes to show that we have to be taught. Islam? I want to draw from something really quick. Chapter 47 of the Holy Quran, Moorish Science Temple of America. While you're all looking, demonstrate the cover. The Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared by the noble prophet Drew Ali, by the guiding of his father, God Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man from his sinful and fallen stage of humanity back to the highest plane of life of his father, God Allah. Islam? And to declare my intentions. If there's anything that you hear from me tonight that is good, it comes from Allah. Anything that you heard that was bad came from me. Because surely it did not come from Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and definitely not from Allah, the most glorified and exalted. Islam? Page 3, dear readers, do not falsely use these lessons. They're for good, peace, and happiness for all those that love Jesus. Islam? Chapter 47, going to the last three instructions, 15, 16, and 17. Chapter 47 is Egypt, the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa. Instruction 15. The time has come that every nation must worship under its own vine and fig tree, and every tongue must confess its own. Through sin and disobedience, every nation has suffered slavery due to the fact that they honored not the creed and principles of their forefathers. That is why the nationality of the Moors was taken away from them in 1774, and the words Negro, black, and colored were given to the Asiatics of America who were of Moorish descent, because they honored not the principles of their mother and father and strayed after the gods of Europe, of whom they knew nothing of. Islam? All right. What did he say? He said, they honored not the principles of their mother and father. Islam? Fathers draw from divine constitution and bylaws, the salvation, Allah, unity, the Moorish science of America. The divine constitution and bylaws, Act 7. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of uplifting and fallen humanity. Islam? Okay? So that's something, that's holy law that you're called to do, is to honor your mother and father. Now, that could be your immediate mother and father, which that's part of that. Or your honorable foremothers and foremothers. We have to be clear. Because not all our forefathers were honorable. That's how we ended up here, right?
Right.
Okay. So, but it says, 15, you must worship under your own vine and fig tree, and you must confess your own. Confessing your own entails being a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity, right? Wherever you see your people having a need, it is your obligation to uplift them. That's confessing your own. Islam? Because no one is going to uplift our people but us. You know why? Because no one cares, nor should they. On this planet, everybody got their own problems. Islam? So you cannot wait for another group to help bail you out of something that you partake in there. Islam? All right. Says through sin and disobedience. I want to thank the Assistant Branch Chief for demonstrating the word obey. We don't like that word. We don't like obey nothing. It ain't just the sisters either. Brothers don't like to obey nothing either. Brothers, men are anarchists. We don't like law, government, rules. None of that. But when we get up under some good holy instruction, man, that should transform from a man to a god. Islam, but we were careful with that, because what title did Satan also give himself? So we're careful with that, right?
Yeah.
But we see a brother transform into his divine self once he got disciplined. Islam? See, the Moorish Science of America, we're here to break a lifetime full of bad habits. You know, we all got bad habits that we have to shake. Islam? All right? So it's through sin and disobedience. What is sin? In the Moorish Science of America, what do we consider sin to be? But we want to define that because we got a lot of concepts in that. Use the prophet in your answer.
Anything that alludes to slavery.
Islam, you want it more? That's what I would say. But go ahead, sister, what do you have? Anything that harms Islam. All right? So, and definitely anything dealing with slavery definitely harms. So praise Allah, right? So, you know, we have to give those aspects back. He said that every nation suffered slavery due to the fact that they honored not the creed and principles of their forefathers. See, again, if you look at our forefathers in their golden age, we honored all true and divine prophets. Islam? If you don't believe in Great Quran of Muhammad, Surah 2, which is chapter 2, verse 136. Okay? Great Quran of Muhammad, Surah 2, verse 136. It says, say, we believe in Allah and the revelation given to us, and to Abraham, Ishmael, Isaac, Jacob, and the tribes, and that given to Moses and Jesus, and that given to all prophets from their Lord. We make no difference between one and another of them, and we submit to Allah. Islam Moors? Islam. So as Moorish Americans who are Muslims, we honor all of the prophets. We don't lift one up and say, oh, Prophet Noble Drew Ali was greater than, no, we don't do that. Marcus Garvey was greater than, no, we don't do that either. Jesus was, no, we don't. Islam, because you don't know that distinction. Only Allah does. Islam Moors? Islam. All right? And the Prophet in 17 says, that is why the nationality of Moors was taken away from them, and the words Negro, black, and colored given to the Asiatics of America, who are of Moorish descent, because they honored not the principles of their mother and father, and strayed after the gods of Europe, of whom they knew nothing of. Islam Moors? Islam. I want to draw from a couple verses, and that will be out of Psalms, book of Psalms, and that would be chapter 127, 5. 127 verses 1 to 5. Islam Morris? It reads, unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the guards stand watch in vain. In vain you rise up early and stay up late, toiling for food to eat. For he grants sleep to those he loves. Children are a heritage from the Lord, offering a reward. Children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from him. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are children born in one's youth. Blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. They will not be put to shame when they contend with their opponents in court. Islam? So it's talking about those who are blessed with children. Children come to you in order for you to give them instruction, Allah's instruction. Islam? If you don't invest in the children, you're marring your own future. Islam or? Right? Prophet Noble Dry lays a lot of importance on what the children are taught. Right? He actually made it mandatory in Moorish law for parents to send their children to Sunday school. He said, because out from your Sunday school comes what? The guiders of the nation. Islam? And our law says that sons and daughters, I just read it, sons and daughters must be be industrious, become a part of looking for humanity, and must obey their father and mother. Islam? So it's not like the adults just have some work to do, the children have some work to do as well. Islam always? Right? We want to focus on that because in this particular season, the focus is on children. But it's on arming them the wrong way. You see? So that's why we have the More Science Temple of America, to give them the instruction based on their knowledge of self and to know what their forefathers have done, what their forefathers believe, so that way when they're faced with things in the broader society, they can make the discernment. Right? They know, well, no, that's not really what we do. These are our customs. Islam? Somebody name some Moorish American holy days.
Friday the 13th.
I was going to say, I thought I had some Moorish Americans in the room.
January 8th.
Prophet's birthright, January 8th, right? What else we got?
January 15th.
What is January 15th?
Moorish New Year.
Moorish New Year. What else we got?
Tag Day.
Tag Day. What else we got? Convention. September 15th to 20th. What else we got?
Tag Day.
Moorish Independence Day.
Moorish Independence Day. July 20th. What else we got? Forerunner's birthday.
August 17th.
August 17th. So we have some high holy days that are ours. Islam? And you have to learn to put as much energy into those as you did with the Europeans' holidays. Islam was? I'm going to show you something real quick. This is a quick. How many people in the room graduated from high school? You know, can't take that for granted, right? Some of us had hard upbringings. All of us didn't make the cut, right? How many people have heard of, what is it called? Let me do it this way.
Anthem.
Yeah, I'm drawing for something else. This is not it, this is something else. How many people have heard this before? You know, YouTube, I gotta get past the commercial. How many people have heard this?
Country Tears of Thee.
My Country, 'Tis of Thee, right? Notice.
The national anthem.
Whose national anthem?
America.
The British national anthem.
Oh,
Now we have that in America as, but we thought that was an American thing.
right.
But what they did was they gave you the British national anthem music and overlaid other words on it.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is you honoring somebody else's forefathers.
Okay.
Right.
You get one going.
Yeah, because they say goodbye, country tears of thee.
Islam.
Right.
Islam. And part of my mind is jumping time, and I'm forgetting the name of this other one, but it's called something.
Pomp and circumstance.
Pomp and circumstance. That's why you got a wife. Praise Allah, more by His presence. Okay, how about this one? This one. So we think that's an American graduation song, right? This was made for one of the former kings of England for his coronation ceremony.
Look at that.
It had nothing to do with America. Before America came into existence. But see, you honoring somebody else's forefathers. And see, the dangerous part about it, how many people like Nikes? Who is Nike?
Phil,
God.
Keep going. Come on.
European.
European what? God.
Did caught up.
Which country specifically?
Germany.
Greek. Goddess of what? Victory. Huh. So you wearing some European goddess sneakers? Islam? So we were worshiping in their mind that don't know it. Right? You know, like even the usage of the cross, respectfully, right? How did the cross come about? Anybody know?
Cutting down.
What was the origin of the cross? Islam.
I'm not sure of its exact origin.
Okay.
However, what I do know is that the oldest knowledge of the cross was from Moses
Okay.
when he went up to Europe. The story goes, there was a foul smell from Europe that came down to Africa. Moses was the one who went up there, which is the whole significance of that story in the Bible, not exactly how they tell it. So Moses went up there and civilized found these Europeans in beastly state on all fours, and did not know how to, take care of their dead, living in their own feces, and could not walk up straight up as a man.
And while that sounds like far-fetched, for those who are not familiar with that, if you go to Leviticus chapters 13 and 14 in your Bible, you'll see about them cleaning them up, so on and so forth. It wasn't going back that far, right? Let's come up to Rome.
Okay. Well, I was.
Let's come up to Roman times and a Roman emperor, specific Roman emperor, who was alleged to have had a vision about this cross in the sky. What was his name?
Haven't already risen. I don't know his name. I do know that he had a vision, and he said, "In this sign you will conquer."
Islam.
And it was a picture of the what we know now as the cross.
Islam.
I rise in praises to Allah and honors to His holy prophet, from my understanding, I might be wrong on the name, if it was Caesar Bulgaria or if it was just
Caesar Borgia was where he got the image from, for the picture of Jesus. But the emperor's name was Constantine.
Constantine.
Emperor Constantine.
No.
And he is alleged to, because what happens was the Christians were growing in number in his empire. And he said, okay, well, I got to come up with something, because if not, they're going to overthrow me. So he allegedly had a vision where there were soldiers on the battlefield fighting. He had a vision of a cross in the sky. And it was a Latin phrase, which is in hoc signo vinces, which means in this sign you will conquer. And everywhere the Romans went, they took and applied that emblem to the people they had conquered. They even put the cross in the graveyard over the body, because death has conquered the body. Islam, Morris? All right? But again, how many of our people know that when we wear a cross around their neck, that you're representing a Roman victory over your forefathers? So we don't know that. But if we were to educate our children in this, as they get older, they would be armed and prepared and equipped against that. Islam, Morris? Respectfully, how much money do you think was spent this month trying to get ready for today, which is December 25th, which they say Christmas, right? Billions. Would you say billions?
It's long.
It might be teeter-tottering on trillions.
They're going to announce it within the next 48 hours.
Absolutely.
They're going to say they didn't get all they wanted.
Exactly.
It was global.
I was just looking at America, but if you do global, then that's crazy.
American spirit.
Right? And, there's other hidden histories on that thing too, man. Like if you really knew who Santa Claus was. How many people have heard of Zwarte Piet? Heard of this? Z-W-A-R-T-E. Again, Z-W-A-R-T-E. Next word, D-E. And the next word, Piet, P-I-E-T. Zwarte Piet. Zwart or Schwartz in the Dutch tongues means black. Right? De Piet means basically Peter. They call him Black Peter. Right? Zwarte Piet was a little short Moor that lived in Holland. Right? And he was a little short master of the law. And there was this European who kept breaking the law, right? He would break in people's houses and steal gifts. from it, right? He was a drunkard, he was an alcoholic, so they said he had rosy cheeks, okay? So what happens is this Watch the Peak, when another council of people got together and ruled, they said, look, so as a penance, your job would be to give gifts to people as opposed to taking them. And so Watch the Peak, he was a little short brother, he would accompany him everywhere he went, to make sure that he did what he was supposed to, right? There's a festival in Holland to this day. Y'all call it putting blackface on. There's thousands and thousands of people in the streets and they put on blackface. And it's called the Watch the Peak Parade, right? But what they're honoring the Moor that captured this criminal and made him give gifts as opposed to taking them. Mm-hmm. And they call this one Sinterklaas. And that became your Santa Claus, right? Now here's the thing, the whole thing about being naughty and nice. Y'all know this story? Well, that comes about because they said if the children were naughty, they say they'd take them off to Spain and sell them into slavery. Why Spain? Who ruled Spain for 800 years?
Moors.
The Moors. So they were terrifying the Europeans and Holland with the Moors. Who knew that your forefathers were all up in that story? And that the little elves were really talking about your little, the average one of us is short. It's some tall ones amongst our race, but the average people. Watch this. How tall was Marcus Garvey? About 5'6", 5'7". How tall was Noble Raleigh? 5'6", 5'7". Elijah Muhammad?
About 5'6", 5'7".
Yahweh Ben Yahweh? Y'all know him?
Yeah, we know Yahweh Ben Yahweh.
Ben Ami?
Yes.
How tall was
Ben
he?
Carter.
Little small masters.
It's short.
Why is all this truth coming through these little small masters?
Yeah.
Islam? But you'll see that in the ancient world. You'll see even the Irish have the leprechaun, right? They have the leprechaun, so he's a little short guy.
Yeah.
The leprechaun, they go back to a group of people called the Skraelings, right? And the Skraelings, which they call the pygmies in Africa, the little short people, who knew where all the treasures were on earth, right? That's why the leprechaun bought his pot of gold.
Let it go, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? At the other end of the rainbow, right? Saying all this to say that we are celebrating these holy days and holidays, not realizing that much of their foundation had to do with us, right? So that's what makes it look even more foolish to the world when they see us partaking in something without the knowledge of the fact that we were the founders of some of the traditions of it. Islam Moors? All right? Well, you have to go back and honor that which came to and through you. Islam Moors? Right? Does anybody have any questions? Islam sister?
What about, you see like archaeology digs, and they find like super tall people, they're like giants. Someone might say like that they believe that those were us back in the days.
So that's when you're talking about what they call those antediluvian, which means that before a period of time when a certain region of the planet got flooded, you know what I'm saying? There was an old. You gotta realize this. We've been on this planet for a long time. I'm taking the height differential I'm talking about now is of its most recent phase. So you start to see this, right? But in the ancient world, there's a lot of things that don't fit the common narrative of what you have. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, it's like they ask about the pygmies, the little short masters, right? And when you look at them, they say, well, they don't have any technology, they don't have this and whatever. But according to their stories, they said they had technology at one point. They had all of that type of stuff. And they started realizing they were getting further and further away from the father of the universe, as we would call it. You see what I'm saying? So they forsake it all and went back to nature and got their abilities back. Right now, the government of Rwanda is actually persecuting the Twa, like they like to call themselves, persecuting them and making them live in cities. Now, the downside of that, when one of the Twa, the little short masters, would get sick, they would go to nature and pull herbs, right? Well, when you live in a city, you don't have access to that. So now they're starting to die off and so on and so forth. You know what I'm saying? But there's different, we measure time by cycle ages. So we have to know what cycle of time we're talking about to match, the 13-foot tall statues and so on and so forth. There's actually a website called Forbidden Archaeology, where they deal with all of that. You know what I'm saying? Like all these, architectural wonders, like these giant steps. Who built this and for what purpose? You know what I'm saying? It goes into a whole thing. The prophet actually touches on a lot of that in chapter 47. You just gotta know what you're looking at. When he gets to talk about before the great earthquake, that's going into that stuff. But he doesn't want to cause confusion, so he scales it back. Yes, we start even going into that. Which that was many, scientists say that was millions of years ago. You know what I'm saying? When it was all connected. So, even things they finding down in Australia to this day, I'm baffling them because it's like, it doesn't fit. You know what I mean? You got aboriginals with, deep olive skin, wide noses, and blonde hair. Right? And not because they mix with anybody. Blue eyes. Not because they mix with anybody. So that doesn't fit the natural scheme of things. You understand what I'm saying? And praise Allah that, how old are you? Y'all know what I was doing at 17. I wasn't asking questions like that.
Right.
Islam? And see, this is what I'm talking about. And praise Allah, she has an environment, definitely home, right? Thank you, Mom. But praise Allah that they have a home environment, but definitely a temple to reinforce what is being taught at home. A lot of times that's what we lose with our children is that, we don't create an environment for them to support the genius that they're being taught at home. See what I'm saying? So mom and dad are saying one thing, they go out to society, all their friends are saying something else. You see what I'm saying? But if they only do, them ain't your friends. Somebody will tell you to do something to destroy yourself, it's not your friend. See what I'm saying? And with that, I'm going to draw from one more record, and then I'll take more questions, and if not, we'll lower the meeting. Islam?
Islam.
This is a book entitled The Duties of Brotherhood in Islam. Right? And you can very well translate the word brotherhood for sisterhood. It's the same thing. Right? And this was written by one of your forefathers, Moorish forefather named Al-Ghazali, which is A-L-G-H-A-Z-A-L-I. Okay? And this is in a chapter called The First Duty. It says, God's messenger, talking about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, 2 brothers are likened to a pair of hands, one of which washes the other. Islam?
Islam.
Anybody ever try to just wash one hand by itself? You need 2 hands to wash. Islam? And that's how it is with each other. In a society, we need each other. Islam? All right? So it says, he chose the simile of 2 hands rather than the hand and the foot because the pair are of mutual assistance towards a single aim. So it is with 2 brothers or 2 sisters. Right? Their brotherhood is only complete when they are comrades in a single enterprise. In a sense, the 2 are like one person. This entails a common participation in good fortune and bad, a partnership in the future as in the present moment, an abandonment of possessiveness and selfishness. In thus sharing one's property with one's brother, there are 3 degrees. Remember I taught you a couple weeks ago that in Islam, you're taught by degrees. You're not given the information all at once. Islam? It says the lowest degree is where you place your brother on the same footing as your slave or your servant, attending to his need from your surplus. Some need befalls him when you have more than you require to satisfy your own, so you give spontaneously, not obliging him to ask. To oblige him to ask is the ultimate shortcoming in brotherly duty. So in other words, if you have to wait for your brother or sister to ask you for help, then you've already failed them. You should be able to look and see the need and offer it to them freely.
Islam.
That's Islam. That's Islamism, all right? Because Islamism is when you practicing the Islam, right? It says, at the second degree, you place your brother on the same footing as yourself. You are content to have him as partner in your property and to treat him like yourself, to the point of letting him share in it equally. Al-Hassan, one of your forefathers, said there was once a man who would split his waistband between himself and his brother. At the third degree, the highest of all, you prefer your brother to yourself and set his need before your own. Remember chapter 15 in your Quran, when Jesus went to the wilderness for self-examination? Have I the strength to give myself as a willing sacrifice for man? Islam? All right, so this is the degree he was demonstrating because he was willing to sacrifice his own self to help his brother, right? He says this is the degree of the Sadique. Write this word down for those taking notes. S-I-D-D-I-Q. And Sadique, right, means trustworthy. Okay? It's the same word, like when you say Melchizedek, that Zedek on the end, it's Sadiq in Hebrew, which means trustworthy. It says, and the final stage for those united in spiritual love. Self-sacrifice is one of the fruits of this degree. Tradition tells us how a Sufi fraternity was slanderously misrepresented to one of the caliphs who ordered their execution. Now, one of their number was Abu Hassan al-Nuri, who ran forward to the executioner so that he might be the first to be put to death. Asked why, he replied, I wish that my brothers, rather than I, should have the moment to live. This, to cut a long story short, was the cause of all their lives being saved. If you do not find yourself at any of these stages in relation to your brother or your sister, then you must realize the contract of brotherhood is not yet concluded in the inner. All that lies between you is the formal connection, lacking real force in reason or religion. Maimun ibn Mahran said, just one again, another forefather, one who is not content, one who is content not to put his brother first, might as well be brother to the people of the tombs. So if you're not caring for your brother and sisters, you might as well be dead. Islam, and we see that death reflected in our community because of us not doing what we're supposed to do to lift our brothers and sisters up. Islam, you know, and these are lessons that have to be taught early. If they're not being taught early, then we're failing our people. Islam, Morris? Praise Allah. All right, at this point, I have some fezzes to issue. But before I do, Brother Quillen has a question. Islam, what?
I have questions. There's two. I had heard recently about there's like very, very tall brothers, like maybe like 7'6", and they have like tall fezzes. I don't know if you've ever seen them, you know.
So, I don't know the tribe or nation that you're speaking of, but I do know, as an example, the amongst the Ottoman Turks, or the Turkish nation today, they're not Ottomans anymore. Amongst the ones they call the dervish, right? The whirling, the ones you see, if you type in the word whirling dervish, you'll see that their fezzes are actually taller than the ones we wear. Right? They're like 9 to 10 inches, in height. I don't know if it's connected to what you're speaking of, you know what I'm saying? But I do know that, from nation to nation, the variation of the fez will alter itself based on what they're demonstrating in their culture.
What does that mean when it's longer, like tall like that?
You'd have to study that. If you pull up whirling dervish, you'll get a whole study.
Whirling dervish?
Whirling, because they call them whirling because they just spin. You'll see this a lot of times. I wish Brother Marquis was here. Brother Marquis' son, Little Marquis, the assistant Grand Sheikh and I, we were all in here one day, and we just saw him in the corner spinning for like, how long would you say, about 15 minutes more? Like 15 straight minutes, and stopped and just walked off like, whoa, hold on. You're not dizzy? He was like, let's do it again. He's just spinning. If I'd have done that, I'd been unconscious for 2 days. You know what I'm saying? So some of us have this in our DNA, that whirling, and what it is, is that they're mimicking the revolution of the planet. You know what I'm saying?
It's called whirling
dervish. Dervish, the whirling dervish.
I don't know if you ever heard about this, but I was watching, I think it was like 4.
Speak up a little bit so we can catch on camera.
I said I was watching Hidden Colors 4,
yes.
Or I think it was 4 or 3, and it was talking about where the Santa Claus that has been portrayed has come from, and it was actually coming from the saint. It was an Asiatic in, I think it was in someplace in Europe or something like that, but they got that from here. He was actually a very righteous Asiatic man, and they had taken those concepts and placed it on the
Europeans
here. That was an actual person that was an Asiatic.
As the story hands itself down, like an example right now, you go to Egypt thinking you're gonna look at some real dark skinned hieroglyphics. A lot of times they're going in and change the color of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So as time goes on, people change it based on their political purposes. The same thing what you're talking about. Like the Catholic Church doesn't want you to know that in the Eastern Orthodox tradition you have what they call the Asiatic Madonna, which is Mary and Jesus, and they'll be looking like us in this room. You know what I'm saying? But if you travel, you'll see this stuff. Yes?
Islam haven't already risen.
Islam, what do you recognize?
I would just like to add on to the moment point that, when it comes to these figures, I've seen that they, like you'll find different, they said that, this story goes with that too. But it seems that they have done, like, with different figures, they layer over with different tales of things in order to further hide, the corruption or the lie that exists. You can find out, because my mind, my mind don't revolve with all things like Allah's, but there's many examples of different things that exist that have 3-4 different meanings, and then we be arguing as a people and not understanding that was did on purpose.
Exactly. We can circumvent a lot of these arguments by just sticking to the core principles of the thing. You know what I mean? Like, when you spend time arguing, we have more in common than not. So you're actually arguing the folly. You see what I'm saying? But with that, like I said, as the issue. So first, before I do that, firstly, I'll be issuing them to Brother Jerome Saunders-Bay and Brother Quillen Crenshaw-El. Islam? If I can get our Grand Secretary up front and the Assistant Grand Sheikh to the chat. No, you're fine, whatever, right? I'll do one at a time. Before I do, I just want to give a brief explanation of the fez. A little bit more in depth than I usually do. The fez not only represents, y'all with me?
Yes, sir.
Especially y'all two, because y'all was sleeping. The fez not only represents nationality and birthright, but it also represents a long, travel through time, right? Because not only is it found in the Islamic eras of time, right? It goes back to the ancient Canaanite nations of time, right? So in other words, if you were to go look up the various rulers of Sumer in Assyria and Akkad, AKK-AD, right? You can pull up the hieroglyphics of them in stone, which go back 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, and they had fezzes on them. Islam? The fezzes they had on were made out of all gold at that point, with no tassel, right? Didn't have a tassel because they were the masters of the empire. Islam? Tassel was added when we had to go to the four corners of the planet trying to put stuff back together. Islam? Right? So this is why we have a tassel right now. We have to go around the world. Start at home first. We have to go around the world reminding Earth of the core principles of humanity. Islam? Right? So these fezzes that we're about to issue is not a game and it's not a joke. Like I've often said, the fez is not a hat, so it shouldn't be treated as such. I like brothers to actually, when they take their fezzes off, to put them back in their original case, if not order a case to put it in, right? Because I can almost tell how fezzes have been being treated because of their condition as you come, keep coming through the temple. I'm looking like, oh yeah, he takes it off and throws it down by the side of the bed. You see what I'm saying? Because it looked like it got run over by a car. Islam? Right? But if something's sacred, you take it and you put it in a high place and you take care of it. Islam? And that's symbolic of taking care of the actual birthright. Islam? All right. Now, if I could have up front, Brother Jerome Saunders back. Islam all? Praise Allah. More praise Allah. So, as was already stated more, we want to return to you, another aspect of your birthright, which is this fez. You will be recognized when you have your fez on, by all those in the light. But even those, those that are in the dark, the principles from which this fez represents, whether you have this on or not, you still have to represent those principles. Right? I've always taught that always have your fez on, whether you have your fez on or not. All right? All right? So just bow forward just slightly. Allah, Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my God, and my salvation, by night and by day. His holy prophet, Jurali. Ameen.
Ameen.
And as you've seen me do before, brother, I'm squeezing the very base of your fez as a reminder, as our forefathers have taught, most American forefathers, do not allow your head to outgrow your fez. So in other words, do not become so arrogant as to think that you're better than people just because you hold the fez. Islam?
Islam.
Praise Allah. Islam, boy.
Islam.
May Allah continue to bless you, boy. Islam?
Islam.
Praise Allah. Give me a round of applause. Woo, that's a starting round of applause. Okay. Y'all act like y'all been up there speaking. Time to. Brother Quillen, Quinshaw here. Got you coming. Yes, sir. Come forward, man. Islam, brother. Praise Allah, brother. This young man right here, I got to brag on him for a little bit. He's a very upright and upstanding young man. Islam. Every step of the way, I remember when he first proclaimed his nationality, he brought his father and his sister out. He included his family in what he was doing. Tonight, when he's getting his fez, he brought his father and his sister. She's back there recording or doing something, right? But praise Allah, brother. This fez, like I said, is yours, right? Prophet Noble Raleigh just had us to return the birthright. The Grand Sheik doesn't own it, right? This is your actual birthright. You should have been giving this to you as a child, but we're in the process of putting our side of the nation back together. So maybe Allah willing, when you have your children, you'll be able to put them under the birthright as soon as they're born. Islam, right? So just step forward. Closer, slightly. Islam. Allah, Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my God, and my salvation, by night and by day. His holy prophet. You Ali, Amen. Amen. Squeezing the bottom to make you remember. Not allow your head to hop rough. Real fast. Islam on? Praise Allah. Give him a round of applause. And with that, Moors, I'll go ahead and lower the meeting. Islam? 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 Islam. 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 Praise Allah. You know, Moors, it's a beautiful feeling to see, especially Moorish men, stepping up to responsibility, because a lot of times we find ourselves evading responsibility. Islam? Islam. Right? Divine warning from the Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam? Islam. Prophet warns all Muslims, governors, ordered to read the meeting. Governors ordered to read proclamation at each meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical agitating speech while on their jobs, homes, on the public streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And with these principles violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members that seek to hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet, or to violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet is therefore sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they may do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways by order of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Islam? 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 Islam. Islam. All praise are due to Allah, the highest of honors, to his holy divine prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Moors, I want to thank you all for sacrificing tonight. I know it's been a long week, and I know you all were tired because I felt it when I walked in the room. Islam? But, you know, tired don't have nothing to do with the work that we're called to do. You know, because I'd have to ask, how tired was the prophet? You know what I mean? As he was going around raising people up and setting aside temples, how tired was he? And I don't recall reading nowhere where he complained anywhere. Islam? All right? So, the wherewithal to do what you have to do is inside you. All you have to do is breathe. Islam? And remember your lessons. Islam? And if I just leave you with a parting thought, remember that your family wars. Islam? And like I've often stated, families do not always agree. Families do not always get along. But families have to stay family. Islam? Do you know the loss of one of us weakens our nation? So I don't want nobody leaving out the temple because they think it's an ants out there. That's how you found yourself in here, because you knew it wasn't nothing out there. Islam? So we have to find a way, to find a happy medium so we can get along and we can get some work done. Islam? Right? With that being said, everyone please rise, face the east, which is right ahead of you. Please hold your feet at a 45-degree angle, standing on your square. Your heels will be touching like this. 5 on the left, 2 on the right, invoking the sacred presence of the 7 Elohim that created everything that ever was, is, and evermore to be. Please repeat after me. Allah, Allah, the Father of the universe, Father of the universe, Father of love, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night, and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Islam, Lord.